Hi guys. Okay, so we're light and cheery and happy, but we're talking about anger. You know, I don't think I'm an angry person, but if you push the right button, like, watch out. My kids know. In fact, my kids will be like, "Did you go to yoga today, Mom? Because I am not liking this." But I do feel like I have some angry people in my life. And, you know, so I don't think that my dad had anger issues when I was a kid, but I know that he did. Like, I don't see it. He doesn't really anymore. I feel like he's kind of grown out of that. Yeah. Do you grow out of anger?
You know what's interesting with men? Their testosterone gets less.
Oh,
and so their testosterone helps drive that.
Right.
And so when their testosterone gets less, they a lot of times become more mellow.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, my dad has become a lot more mellow. But, you know, what I really wanted to talk about today is if you're not an angry person, you're not, you know, and I feel like there are people that are not angry people and you get them behind the wheel of a car and they turn into an angry person. Is that you?
Guilty as charged.
Yes.
Now, that's where I get the most rattled. And I'll tell you why. Because anger is often a secondary emotion that covers other emotions. And my primary emotion when I'm driving is fear. And I don't like when you put me in harm's way. I've been hit twice in 2 years or 3 years.
Okay.
And now when you're being a jerk and you're putting me at harm, or you're putting my daughter in jeopardy, or you're putting that poor woman with a baby in front of me in jeopardy, I am angry and protective.
Yeah.
So for me, but I think that happens a lot with anger, is that it's a secondary emotion that's covering up sadness, fear, hurt, right? So for me, I funny story, when my kids were little, they learned all of their fun words from mommy driving. Right? Because they're listening, right? So when you're not driving, you're like, we don't say that, we say ouch.
And you get behind the wheel and you're like, S.
Yeah. So
M-R-F-er.
No, Hannah leaned in one day, she goes, "Mommy, is he an asshole?" I'm like, yes.
He's an asshole. I love that. So really what I wanted to talk about is not about how to deal with your own anger, because I think we've addressed that before, but how to deal with someone else's anger. So let's say there's someone you love that gets angry a lot, and it makes you like, ooh, uncomfortable, or if they get angry at you, how do you deal with that? Yes. Not just a loved one, but let's say you're on the road and the guy's crazy honking behind you. How do you deal with that? You know, how do you deal with someone else's anger? What's a good way to diffuse it, to make them aware that it's not okay, and also to kind of help them work through it? Can you help someone work through their anger?
Well, I'm laughing kind of this evil laugh right now because we want to tell you what not to do.
Okay.
Because I think, you know, we're all human, right? So I'm showing the world a little bit of my dark side right now, that I get really, like, I am the victim of honkers a lot. So I'm the girl that's like, no, I'm not pulling in front of that parade of cars.
Right. Or I'm going to sit at this green light because you honked at me.
That's what I'm saying. So what happens is, that's what I'm saying. I'm showing my dark side because when you do that, I want to sit.
Sit. Yes,
and my favorite thing to do,
I'm the same way.
And you know what my favorite thing to do is when they honk, I wave. Like, hi, how are you?
Right.
That gotcha.
Literally, the light turned green 2 seconds ago. You don't need to honk at me.
Exactly.
Right.
And so don't do that. That's very inflaming.
Yes.
And so I've learned with all the road rage, I've learned not to, because I did used to like turn around in my rear view and like smile and wave, like, you can go around.
Right.
But I don't think that's a good idea. So I don't think that we should inflame people. We have a little bit of an angry culture right now. So I want people to protect themselves and be safe. So the angry driver, a lot of times where I used to smile and wave or drive slow and like light them on fire, I really just safely get out of their way at this point. Like, and I'm a poker face. So if there's somebody behind me laying on the horn, I wait until I can safely go, and then I do, and I prepare for the fact that they will most likely drive around, and you know, and so I watch for their erratic behavior because I know it's coming. So really, you know, one of the things my dad, may he rest in peace, one of the things he taught me was defensive driving, predicting what other people are going to do. So I think when you have somebody who's inflamed, you really do need to kind of predict, are they going to jump in front of you and stop? Are they going to, and just get out of the way. And really and truly, if you're in a situation where you're on 95 and they're starting to play games with you, they're getting in back, literally get off the road.
Yeah.
Get off the exit, get off the road. You can always...
but that triggers me. When someone else gets angry like that, that triggers me. And I do. I want to turn into I want to get them back kind of thing.
I do too.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's a lot of funerals around that. You know, like, people do get shot that way. People do get, you know, knocked off the road that way or put into an accident. So please, 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 how do we diffuse that? You don't give any energy, because they're looking. You notice that, like, the person who's honking, they're like looking, they want to make eye contact, they want you to engage. So it just happened a couple of nights ago. My husband was with me. He was in front of me, and I saw the person coming up, and they were darting, you know, and I was already annoyed. Like, these people put people in jeopardy. And he came up behind me, and I tapped I put on my signal. So at the last minute, he decided, well, I don't want to be behind her.
Yeah.
So he darted the other way. And then at the light, he leaned over. He wanted to see who wasn't going fast enough for him. So he wanted to know who wasn't going fast enough for him. And it was so interesting. I wanted, of course, to look back like, what's up? You know? But it was interesting. I just turned and just gave him this blank stare. And I could see he almost felt like, kind of like, oh, dumb girl. You know, like, it didn't inflame him because I just looked innocent. Like, I just was unaware of whatever I did wrong that made him mad.
Right.
But he definitely looked to be the kind of person that, had I engaged, it would have been a rough night. You know what I mean? And so I really think safety first with this. The other thing, though, you asked, or you said a few minutes ago, is how do we let people know that they are...
I think with loved ones, like, because it's one thing when you're on the road and it's a stranger and whatever. It's another thing when you have a spouse or a family member or someone that you love that, you know, isn't violent but gets angry, loud. We're not talking about violence here. No, I'm not talking about domestic violence. If you have someone in your life that is being violent, that's a totally different segment. We're talking about anger.
And we're talking about people that aren't really even verbally abusive, but they get triggered. You know, I love, you know, some people, like, they'll, like, hurt themselves and then that enrages them. So, like, they bend down to do something in the refrigerator and then they hit their head and then they're like, ah! You know, and then they want to, like, break the door and slam it. Like Melissa McCarthy slamming the door 80 times. Right. You know, that kind of concept. Yeah. So but it affects us, right? Because I get so, like,
it startles me. It startles me. And I do one of three things. I either completely shut down and ignore them. I try to do the yoga thing with them, which really sometimes really pisses them off because they don't want to hear my woo-woo-ness. Right. But then I also think, explains it, like, what's the goal here? You know, I really want them to be aware of, like, what's the goal of you getting so upset with this person?
Which is beautiful, but not properly placed when they're raging. Yeah. And so that's where we stumble into.
That's where the woo-woo is not good.
Right. So the woo-woo, so for those of you that don't know what woo-woo is giving, like, lovely expressions when someone's in the middle of their rage, like, you know what, how important is it really? Like, why don't you come back to your center and think about, like, life is short and precious. So that's woo-wooing, which when you're saying that to a person that's on fire, it's like, they're like, they just want to throat hit you, you know? So don't do that. And then what you're saying is coming up with the logic, like, how is this serving you? Which I think is great once they're calm and we're talking about it an hour later, to be like, hey, how does that process benefiting you? Do you want to continue to react that way? That's great in an hour. But when somebody's on fire, I think one of the most effective things, and definitely the best thing for you, because the alternative is that most of us will engage. So they're mad, and then we're like, why are you being a jerk? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do anything. So we're engaging with them. That's awful, because now you're just triggering them more, and now you're angry. What you want to do is you want to basically hold up a mirror to them of what they're looking like and how they're affecting you. So I statements. So it looks like this. When you were slamming the garage door repeatedly, what happens for me is I get really scared and I feel attacked. My heart is racing out of my chest. I'm shaking. I feel my blood pressure's up. Like, I feel really scared when you're slamming things. It's so uncomfortable for me. Now what you've let them know is how they're coming across to you, how they're affecting you, how they're impacting you. Because I have yet to this day never met, especially men, not to pick on men, God bless you guys, but you guys don't realize you are 6'4", 6'3", 240 pounds. When you're slamming stuff, I am scared.
Yeah.
I am scared. And when couples come to the office and the woman says, well, he scares me, always the guy's like, what? Because they're thinking, I've never laid a hand on you. I would never hurt my wife.
Right.
You don't have to. When you're doing that kind of behavior, it's scary for us.
Yeah.
So letting them gently, calmly, letting them know, hey, you're really making me scared right now. I'm feeling uncomfortable. My heart's racing. I'm feeling shaky. Or the kids just, they just kind of cowered. You're affecting us right now. Can you take a deep breath? This is really painful for me. Yeah. I don't know many good guys or great people that are going to say, well, deal with it.
Yeah.
Most good people at that point are going to say, I don't mean to scare you. I'm just really frustrated. And then you can negotiate. Well, okay, well, how can I make it better?
Yeah.
What do you need to do to get some of this out? I know even with my son, he can be a little bit of a reactive person. Yeah. So we used to say, like, can you go hit your punching bag? Can you go, kind of inviting them, like, maybe you need to go for a run. What do you need to do to take care of yourself? But to also, like, not dump this on us.
Yeah. Does anger always need to be, do you always need to go to therapy if you have anger issues, or can you work through that on your own, do you think?
I think there's a lot of great resources out there, even in the, I wish I knew the topic, I apologize, but there was a book years ago that was like, the caption on it is like, stop being angry, and it's very like aggressive, and it's written by a guy. The tools are phenomenal in that book and really helpful, and he's very confrontive about like, not okay to dump your anger. So I think, I know I come from a long line of angry people. Rageaholism runs in my family. My mom was raised around a very raging, rageful parents. My mom, when she first got sober, went into some of that raging herself. She's, sobriety changed that, and she, dealt with it and learned how to deal with it. But she talks about in her family, I mean, my grandmother's, my mom's father was very angry. My grandmother's father was very angry, would rip the, tablecloth off the table type thing. Like, very angry people. My uncle,
table flipping anger.
Table flipping anger. My uncle used to be very, very angry. He used to scare the daylights out of me. So there is an anger thread in our family. So I definitely had to learn when I had two children, and I was like, oh, all these, my uncle's angry, my mom's angry, and then I was like, ooh, I got the gene. So it can. I
don't understand how people don't see in other people's eyes when they get like that, because like literally it startles me when someone gets that angry. Like, how do they not recognize that in other people, like what they're doing to other people?
Well, here's what's so fascinating. What I was just saying, when you live with anger, you learn. When you live with anger, you learn anger, and it's normal to you.
Right.
So when I started being angry, and like when I had two kids that were into everything, and I'm like, don't touch that, stop, and I started to see that, what's the first thing my brain says? Well, I'm not as bad as my mom was. I'm not as bad as my uncle was. I'm not as bad. To me, it's normal because I grew up with it. So if you've seen it, you normalize it. So the very first thing you need to do if you're trying to tackle your own anger is you need to see it as unacceptable to dump your anger on people.
Right.
It's okay to be angry.
It's okay to have those feelings.
It's okay to have the feelings.
It's not okay to react.
What you do with those feelings, how you impact others, that's your responsibility.
Right.
So that was for me. I oftentimes would bite my tongue with my kids, literally bite my tongue, and say to myself, it is not okay to rage. It's not okay to dump anger on people.
Right.
But people don't see it because they grew up with it a lot of times. They've seen it their whole lives, and they minimize it.
Right.
It's very easy. So that's why, and you're saying, how do they not see the fear in my eyes? Well, maybe they just see that you're quiet and shut down, and they just think, they don't think anything. That's why the I statement's so important. I feel really scared right now when you do that. I'm really feeling attacked when you're yelling. I'm feeling really uncomfortable right now. So showing people and letting them know how they're impacting you makes a huge difference.
What if you have a spouse that is angry, that gets angry or gets triggered? How do you make sure that your children aren't? Is there a way to kind of navigate that? Because I feel like if you grow up in a home where you have a parent that's like flipping out over little things, like you're more likely to be that kid that's then going to flip out over little things.
I think that...
as the opposite spouse, how do you deal with that?
I feel like behavior modification is kind of the go-to on that one. And what that means is, you know, you do behavior modification with your kids, right? If your son does something, you say, mom, you will set a boundary or you will react a certain way. Maybe he's doing that and you'll ignore him. And then you'll say to him, mommy doesn't respond to being pulled on. If you want my attention, you say, excuse me. And then the next time he does this, you're like looking at him and he's like, mom, excuse me.
Yeah.
Great. Now next time don't pull on my shirt. Like you're modifying his behavior by how you're reacting. So one of the things I think when you have a spouse that's like blowing up, the first thing I would do is get the kids out and leave the scene. So he's in the garage, he starts throwing things, you're like, okay kids, let's go in the house. And it's like sending again a message, a boundary of like, we're not going to be in this with you. Absolutely not. So, you know, disconnecting, even if you're in, you know, if you're, I want to say like in the car, but that's rough if you're in the car. So if you're in the car, I think you just say, you know, you're scaring us. Please stop.
Yeah.
Please stop yelling. This is making, the kids are getting anxious. I'm getting anxious. So again, I statements, letting people know where you're coming from. But if I'm in an environment where I can leave, even if I'm at, let's say you meet a friend or you say you meet your boyfriend and then you bring those kids and you're in two separate cars and he starts to get upset about something. Sorry, we're not meaning to pick on you, but, and he starts to get upset. I think it's totally appropriate to go, we're going to go.
Right.
This doesn't work. You know, you're upset. This isn't healthy for any of us. And like, take the keys and go. And again, like we said very clearly, this is not dealing with a violent person. This is just dealing with a person who gets their feelings get away from them. And then they're like, wow, my whole family is leaving the restaurant.
Right.
This sucks. And you'd be surprised the next time when they start to inflame and you're like, okay, and they're like, no, I got this.
Right.
Sorry. You know, and it's behavior modifying. So it's like, you can't change them, but it's like, I can't change what you do, but I'm going to change what I do when you do that.
Right. And even telling them to calm down can even make it worse, right? Calm down, take a deep breath.
Now you're not
Stop freaking out.
Yeah, so it's really about you do you, but I'm not going to participate.
Engage. Yeah.
I'm not going to participate in this. So if you're going to scream, I'm going to go.
Right.
And that, you'd be surprised because most people don't want you to go.
Right.
They're just in their stuff. They don't want you to leave or
disconnect. So is the worst thing you can do just let them go through it and not react? I mean,
I think that sends a message that it's
you're okay with it.
Yeah, to me, especially like, let's say that now we're switching populations. Now we're talking to all the 20-something girls that are starting to date, or we're talking to all the people that are newly married, or we're talking to all the people with small children that are married. I think that sends a message that I will tolerate your rages, and I will accept them, and we will suffer through. And so then the next one is coming.
Right.
Whereas if it comes and you're like, oh, this, we're going to go. You're upset. Or would you like to go cool off, or do you want us to go? Because we're not going to do this.
Right.
This doesn't work. This isn't healthy.
Right.
This is scaring me.
Yeah.
Right. I feel scared right now. The kids feel scared.
And even if it's not a loved one, I mean, if it's a coworker or a boss or someone that you have to work with that does that, I mean, having that same reaction is...
I think even stronger boundaries. I know that people will be scared because of bosses or whatever, but if somebody was yelling at me, I think I would say, it's not okay to scream at me.
Yeah.
I want to hear what you have to say. If you could lower your voice, then I would be better able to hear you. I'm feeling very scared right now, or I'm feeling very attacked right now. I want to hear what you have to say, but it's not going to be okay to yell at me.
Right.
And as a clinician who used to deal with adolescents where the moms and the dads would call and scream at me, usually dads, but you know, they would call and scream at, well, my daughter said, you said, and I would say, I need you to lower your voice. I want to hear what you have to say. And on the third round of screaming, I'm hanging up now.
Yeah.
You're certainly welcome to email me. I'm certainly, but you're not going to do this to me.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want, but I'm not receiving it.
Right.
Right? So I think there's all kinds of variances with that.
Setting those clear boundaries.
Yeah. But the iMessages are so critical because I think most people are good and they don't know they're impacting you this way. They're just frustrated and they don't mean to. And so I know my husband is so good at that when I say, you're biting. Yeah. And he's like, I don't mean to bite. I'm just hungry, Yeah. But if I can let him know you're impacting me, you're affecting me right now, because a lot of times you're just in your own stuff. You don't know how you're affecting everybody else,
Yeah.
So when you can say that.
Yeah, it can be eye-opening. It certainly can be eye-opening. Yeah. Do you have a different conversation with that person after the incident, like when everything is calm? Is that a different conversation, or is it still the I message of here's how this is impacting me?
I think that, like I said earlier, that might be the point for the logic piece. So then the later conversation is, I have to be honest with you. When you behave the way you did earlier in the garage in front of the kids, I feel terrified. I start to shake. My blood pressure goes up. My heart rate changes. I look at the kids. They're nervous. They've got their eyes are this big. I can see they're scared, and it's really affecting us. And then the logic piece, you know, are you aware what this is about for you when you blow up? Do you know how this serves you? Is there something we're doing that's contributing? How can we work on this, honey? Because this is really difficult. I don't want this to keep happening. So that's when you can bring in that helpful, like, how can I be helpful? Or how is this serving you? Or why, you know, why do you think this gets triggered? And am I doing something to contribute? And that kind of thing. So then you can move to that logical problem solving place.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know that the woo-woo is ever appropriate.
Why? Woo-woo is always appropriate.
Let's put flowers and daisies on top of your pile of poo and feel better.
Oh.
You know, because
Yoga. Just go to yoga. That's
like
what I
everybody
tell
else
everyone.
would go to yoga, then no more angry people would be out there. Because people they're not in a place they can hear it yet.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
I know. I have to remember that sometimes,
Yeah.
that not everyone wants to hear my spiritual woo-woo.
not to sprinkle your daisies where you're not invited to.
That's right.
Don't bring your daisies around here.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, that was very eye-opening. I like that. That's some really good advice. Thank you, Shannon. And don't forget, we are on podcast. You can listen to us on your cell phone while you're driving or working out or doing any of that. Subscribe to us on YouTube.
Yes.
YouTube. And don't forget to leave us any show topics. If you have any ideas, anything that you're dealing with, we want to hear from you. So, because we want to talk about what you want us to talk about.
Yes, and what your friends won't tell you.
What your friends won't tell you. That's true, because we will. And share our videos, like our page, like our videos, and I guess that's it.
And have a great day.
Have a great day. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.